Thanks everyone for joining us this afternoon for the latest of our ThinkSMART webinars. It's going to be the last one before Christmas, and then we'll resume these in the new year. For those who don't know me, my name is Mike Hall from ThinkSMART Marketing, and we're marketing consultants, and my other two business partners are Gary King, who you may well know, and also Claire Taylor, who is our marketing strategist. And part of what we want to do is offer value where we can, and part of that is doing some webinars and asking experts to join us. I'm delighted that Andy has come along from Ascensor today, so we're going to talk all things digital. Andy, if you want to give yourself a bit of a big up and an intro, please.
Thanks, Mike. Hi, everyone. Yeah, so I own Ascensor. We're a 13-year-old digital agency based in Leeds, and we've got a full range of services, but what I'm really proud of is our small business and startup services, typically websites built using our Air website solution, which helps sort of small businesses to get online and promote themselves without spending a huge amount of money. And there's loads of stuff that they can do themselves. So it's great to be able to still provide a quality service at a sort of a lower budget, as well as working on the really big infrastructure projects that we work on for clients across e-commerce, financial services, and other sectors.
Thanks, Andy. I mean, we worked together quite a bit over the number of years, and it's always good just to get sort of your perspective of the kind of, you know, the main challenges that you see business owners, what they have, you know, when they come to you, or certainly in the digital space, what, you know, the sort of challenges they have when they're looking for that kind of digital solution.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's just so much information out there, and like, you know, you say, you know, too much choice is not necessarily a good thing. And I think one of the challenges business owners have is, as well as time, is sort of knowing what to do and how to spend that time and how to spend that money in terms of their digital investment. Yeah. One of the things we see quite a lot is business owners come to us and think, I want to do this, you know, such and such is doing that, and I need some of that as well. And you know, that's sort of done without any real sort of data behind it, or any research, or potentially any real understanding of why it's working for somebody else, or even if it is working for somebody else.
Yeah. And is that the challenge then? Do you think that a lot of people, as you say, kind of jump on that bandwagon of thinking, you know, we were talking yesterday, weren't we, about people think, oh, you know, I've seen TikTok, so I need it straight away. And it's that understanding, isn't it, of kind of taking that little bit of a step back.
Yeah, and I think there's so much data available out there, and research tools that you can use free of charge to figure out what is the right thing for you. And you know, I think if you just jump around from digital solution to digital solution, you're probably not going to find the right thing that's going to work for you before you've spent an awful lot of money. And when you get digital marketing wrong, your conclusion can be, this isn't the right thing for me, and it's cost you a fortune to learn that lesson. Yeah,
I think we find the same thing when you combine that with offline as well. It's that knee-jerk reaction that, you know, I've seen this thing in the sweet shop and it looks really good, so I'm going to have a bit of that, and I'm going to try something else. And as you say, it doesn't necessarily give you the values. So you talk about the tool that are available. What kind of things can people sort of get hold of that allow them to, you know, have a look at what they're doing?
Well, I think just from a sort of standard market research perspective, there's a great tool called the Keyword Planner.
Okay.
You need to have a Google account for that, and it needs to be hooked up to Google AdWords. You would need to put your credit card or debit card details in to be able to access the Google AdWords platform.
Yeah.
However, you don't need to spend any money as long as you don't start creating adverts and not putting them on pause or anything like that. But there's a tool in there called the Keyword Planner that I've been using for 15 years. That's really not changed a huge amount.
Right.
And what it enables you to do is to either use a website to generate keyword ideas, or insert keyword ideas that you think somebody might be looking for in your sector. And then it generates related terms, and it gives you some amazing data around, you know, how many people are searching, and if you were to advertise using Google Ads, how much you typically pay to be in the first place position for that. So that's really useful and sort of forms the basis of any sort of keyword research. You can then take that and use some tools like Google Insights or Google Trends. And trends is really interesting because, particularly where you've got potentially a seasonal business. So we're seeing, you know, obviously it's Christmas time at the minute, you know, gift businesses are going ballistic. And, you know, you can really see within Google Trends where the different times of year where particular search terms are used more than others. Obviously, it doesn't apply to every business, but these are free tools that are out. I don't think many business owners know.
And I think that's the thing that comes across in a lot of, whether it's, like we do offline, looking at the strategy thing. And when you go through with people, it is about not necessarily what you don't know what you don't know. And so I think we feel that sometimes that can lead to procrastination. So you're not really sure, so you don't do anything and sit there, and then before you know, the month's gone by, you've not done anything since. So actually being able to share the sort of stuff that's out there, I think is really valuable. And I guess then it's either them having the time to do that on a regular basis, or engaging with someone like yourself to help put them in the right direction. It's like I say, it's being told the right things to do in the right way, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think an agency can only do so much. And even though we're starting to get more involved with organic social media, for instance, I still believe that is the type of activity that really should be coming from the business. And if you are to engage an agency, it should be much more around that proactive social media. So a content calendar can be created that is agreed and rolled out, pre-planned, preset. But then the business has there's continuous communication going out there, or broadcast going out there, if you like, but then the business itself is also handling the reactive stuff. So anything that's legislative or in the news or anything like that, the business should also be engaged with it. And then I think that helps, the more the business owner understands about the different things that they could do, the more they can hold an agency like Ascensor to account. And that I think overall leads to much less frustration. You're not spending money on a monthly basis and then just getting a report at the end of the month, and then be like, well, what have I actually got for that? It's they're much more involved in that process, we find.
It kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Because as you say, things that happen in your business, you can be reactive and post things that only you know about. But you do need that kind of structure, as you say, having a plan, the content plan that goes with it. And some of those tools you talked about where you could go and find the keywords, that's a great way to actually work out what your content can be as well, isn't it? So using that is a great way to research what you can actually talk about.
100%. I see so many business owners putting content onto their websites. That's great. They've taken the time to do that, but then it's not set up in the way that's going to best serve this from a search engine optimization perspective. They're not focusing that particular piece of content around a set of keywords that maybe they've defined as a result of the keyword planner. They're not putting metadata in there that's unique to that particular page. So it's almost it's the final 5%. They've done the 95%, get the content in place, but just getting a few things right in terms of that meta structure, and then the content itself. Having some internal links, giving somebody who accesses that page an ability to then navigate to another page, maybe a service or a product or a related blog post, builds engagement. And, Google knows that if somebody visits you, that is then engaged with the information that they came to you for based on a search, and they're engaged with that page. It knows you're offering something that somebody else is more interested in. Just in very simple terms, that psychology is going to help you to be more visible to other people at a certain.
So it is about planning, isn't it? It's planning the route that when they click on that ad, they're going to go here to here to here to here to here, and taking them through that kind of journey, experience, touch points, whatever you want to call it. So your website then becomes the end point or where they want to go to. And do you find there's sometimes a case with the websites, it's like, we built a website, so they'll come, they'll arrive, that's my bit done, when actually it's a living, breathing thing, isn't it?
There's two sides to it. There's driving the right traffic, and if it's an advert and you're paying for it, obviously you need to get something from that, because that affects your cost per conversion. So it's the right advertising or whatever it is that's out there that's going to drive the traffic to somewhere to convert. So there's obviously a lot more to it, but it's really simple. There's two sides to it. It's the right person finding the right information and interacting in some way, whether that's making a purchase or giving you an inquiry, picking up the phone, whatever the goal is. And behind all of that is making sure that there's some analytics in place to really understand what's working, do more of that stuff, and understand what isn't working, so you can start to cut that out. The better your website converts, the cheaper your advertising is. It's particularly from a Google perspective, it's known as quality score. If you've got a good quality advert, because people are clicking on it. You know, the advert's got to be good, because the more people that click on it when they see it suggests it's got the right message. But if the landing page experience isn't good and the person doesn't convert, or they bounce straight off it, then that says, well, it's, you know, anybody can place an advert that gets somebody to click through. But if what they find isn't what they're expecting, then it's not a particularly good quality advert or experience. And the way that you're penalized as a business owner is you pay more per click for that, because you're not giving Google traffic the experience that Google wants to serve up, which is the most relevant result for the search. And
again, is that down to people thinking they'll give it a go and not understanding completely how it works and actually taking the advice? And I guess there's some extent we talk about nailing the customer, or getting the customer profile right, so you know they're actually going to be there in the first place and know what their interests are.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think that you can make very, very expensive mistakes when you're paying for advertising. And that's what I was saying before. You know, it can put you off. You could think, this isn't for me, this isn't when in reality it could be, you know, something just like a structural problem. You know, there's different types of keyword matching, for instance. You know, if you put an exact keyword in to say, you know, I want to show up for digital agency in Leeds, and you've put that in as an exact keyword and somebody searches for that exact keyword, it's going to cost you less than if you say, I want to show up for anybody searching for digital agency, because it's a bit more of a broader scattergun or phrase type of approach. If you get that wrong in terms of maybe retail, you know, there's not a huge amount of people searching for digital agency leads compared to who are searching for, I don't know, personalized clock or give Christmas trees. If you get that wrong, you know, you haven't set your budgets right, you haven't set your keywords right, then, you know, within 20 minutes, you could have spent 20 grand.
Right.
You know, it's like that if you get the structure wrong. But there's so many free tools out there. And I think having business owners, you know, actually look into the service that they're potentially paying for around how is my advert set up or campaign set up, can mean that they're in a better place to hold the agency account. I think that's really important. They're involved in the process. It's like a partnership.
Well, exactly. And we see that with all our clients. It is like how you can work with someone, isn't it? Because you're going together for that same end goal, but you need the foundations in place to start it off. And it's worth talking, isn't it, to people just to understand, you know, the best approach. And each client's different, isn't it? You know, you've got a retail business as well, which would be a different approach to what you have with Ascensor, isn't it?
Yeah, and you know, as a business owner, your business is your baby, isn't it? And you work really, really hard to maintain or to grow a brand and to maintain it. And then you go to an agency with a budget, and you know, almost you can, you know, if you're not involved in the process, then they could quite quickly spend your money and damage your reputation. And it's not something that couldn't have been avoided, if you know what I mean.
So it's about finding the right partner as well, isn't it? It's about finding the right partner to give you that solid advice, whether it's you or anyone else. I guess it's just finding it and knowing what to ask. So, you know, people being aware who might want to go and, you know, there's certain things they should be looking for, asking and things like that when it comes to selecting or working with someone.
Yeah, I think it's particularly when it comes to paid advertising, whether it be through social paid or Google advertising paid, you know, it's really, really important, I think, to understand what the structure of the campaign is going to be, where it's targeting, what your expected return is going to be, how is it going to be measured, what the report is going to look like before you receive it, so that you can ensure that everything is aligned before you commit to using an agency to do advertising. Definitely,
Yeah, I think also as well, you know, if we reflect on what's happened over the last 12 months, you know, in the business world itself, then you're offering what you were doing 6-9 months ago could be completely different to what you're doing now. So even if you're running campaigns, it's worth rechecking in on those to see if they're either still working or still relevant, or thinking, actually, if you developed a new product or service, an online offering, actually now's the time to get in there and consult with someone to how to best promote that, whether it's offline or online.
Yeah, and I think that's there's two main forms of advertising types. There's the organic stuff, so that is using social media from a broadcast perspective, search engine optimization, blog posts, PR, that type of work. And then there's the paid stuff. So paid will give you quick results but you're paying on a per click basis generally, whether it's through social media or whatever. The organic stuff will take longer, and you can see, as far as certainly the social channels are concerned, you get reach a lot quicker if you're using paid advertising.
Yeah, clearly, yeah.
Be in control of it. So there should always, I believe, be an organic strategy alongside a paid strategy.
Yeah.
A lot of that organic stuff can be done by the business itself, and that can be run alongside, so that as you sort of get, as your organic presence improves, you can start to reduce your paid budget, so that you're getting more for less spend. And any paid advertising campaign should get more efficient over time. Initially there's that fact finding, you don't get data until you're doing it, really. You can make all the best efforts and do all the research you want, but until you've got genuine customers accessing your advertising, you don't really know. But it's then the agency's responsibility to manage those adverts on a daily basis. So it might be, if products are changing, they're helping to have that plan in place. But most importantly, it's trying to get more clicks for the budget that the business has got.
Yeah.
And I get the other thing on that, sorry, Mike, as far as holding the agency to account, asking them to provide, as part of the reporting, what changes they've made in the month, what have they actually actively. Often an advertising campaign can get really efficient after 3 months, and if the products or services aren't changing very often, the agency might not need to do anything to keep the performance improving. So why should you be paying them a management fee for that? So is there an opportunity for you to pay an agency for a couple of months to get things set up, manage it, get it running efficiently, and then you take over it and they just do a quarterly review of it?
Yeah.
We got a new inquiry yesterday from a business that's been paying an agency since August, and there've been no changes in their paid account since August. So they've taken a management fee for 3 months, and there was no change history. And that's not saying the campaign wasn't running well, but there's extra money being spent there with an agency that aren't actually doing anything. So I think it's really important as a business owners that you're asking those types of questions if you are paying an agency to do it. And
again, it comes back to what you don't know, do you? Because if you don't know to check these things, you just don't know to do it. So it's about taking that advice and I guess speaking to other people, other business owners, what experience they've had, and find out how the best way is for them to go forward with it. And I think it's also as well, do you find about setting expectations with people as well, that it's not sometimes a very, very instant when, as you say, there is this kind of burnt time where it takes, to get set up and that they understand the process, that from day one they might not get a return straight away, and that it's going to take a bit of time.
Definitely. I mean, it's got to be goal driven, and if you're doing paid advertising, you should get a return more or less straight away. In terms, it's quite easy when you're dealing with a transactional website, so you're making a sale, or there's some sort of data capture like a lead magnet or something like that, because it's tangible. I think it's obviously very important to set goals, and I think in any form of digital marketing, whether you're an agency or not, you don't get it right first time. You might have got the right channel, but there might be things that you learn as a result of doing that marketing, that if you're all over it, you pick it up really quickly and you evolve the campaign. There's things that from a business's perspective that we've worked on where everybody sets off with the right intentions, but in actual fact, the traffic just isn't there. There aren't people searching for it. And, despite the research that you've done, that's just sometimes the case. So sometimes you can open up the net a bit more to get more traffic. Other times it's about saying, look, let's reallocate that budget. Let's spend it in a different way. But I think certainly from our perspective, we always go at things from trying to get quick wins. So, it's about building confidence.
It's building that confidence, isn't it?
So, what's the quickest way we can get you to start getting a return on investment from digital marketing spend? Yeah. But the bigger plan is, once we've nailed that, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. And there's the confidence there. You're in a partnership where you're working together to drive traffic and engagement and some sort of success. Because
at the end of the day, if you're going to spend £1 and get two back, there's no reason why wouldn't you do it? But it's getting the confidence, isn't it? As you say, I think that's a really valid point. It's building that confidence and trust with who you're working with, so that actually you can trust them to get on with it. That's what you want, isn't it?
And it's so easy with digital. Once the format's right, you know, and we look at these things all the time. And as you said, I've got my e-commerce business. It always amazes me how you can see trends in the numbers and what's actually going on, when in reality, there's lots of individual people out there taking individual actions at the wrong time, but you can see patterns.
Yeah.
It's absolutely fascinating. And I think if you're all over that from a marketing perspective, then you can make the most of that.
Yeah, I think data is so important, isn't it? It's understanding that as well. Once you've got it, you can do so much with it as well when it comes to segmentation and all the other things you want to do, the email campaigns and direct mail, whatever it might be, and actually understanding that data. But again, it's do people understand how to use it, what to do with it, and things like that.
But once the formula's right, you can just put the tabs up.
Yeah.
We've got one client that basically they're only getting 20% of the available clicks per day that they could be getting, and we're like, we need to crank the budget up. We need like we can get you 5 times more sales. Literally, we've been working on the campaign for ages, but they couldn't cope. They don't want it.
Right. Okay.
We'll do that in January. Right now, we cannot cope with the amount of business we're already getting. So
okay, that's an interesting thing, that isn't it? When people want to, turn the tap on, can they then? That'd be a nice problem to have. And I think it was something that Phil raised on one of the, if you get into the capacity where you need to employ someone, then actually go ahead and do it, to get that kind of, flow going through.
Yeah, I think, obviously we do a lot with e-commerce, and I think, there's not just about making a sale, is it? It's about all of the infrastructure and supply chain and stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
It's too easy, and I've seen it so many times where businesses just take money and then think I'm in e-commerce and think I'll deal with the problem later.
Yeah.
And, all the hard work that we do, can be sort of destroyed by a business who's not handling customer services properly.
I was just going to say, the customer service element of it, because they filter in the returns of it, what goes right, what goes wrong, how do you deal with it all? It comes down to having a plan, doesn't it? Planning it all out, which is what you need to do. Just in terms of kind of thinking going forward, how do you keep on top of what's happening technology wise, and things that are coming around the corner? Because I guess, it's how do we as business owners get to know what's going on? I know it's probably difficult.
Yeah, no, having a young marketing team. That's the only way.
So that's the event then, is it employ people far younger than we are? Yeah, right, okay.
Yeah, it's just stuff like TikTok. How can businesses best use TikTok? And I think that's having a really good dialogue and like open forums. Anybody can bring ideas to the table, and we can explore it from a commercial perspective, and look and see which clients we've got that could benefit from TikTok, for example, and then just putting that into some sort of a structure. But I think it's like anything, you've got to believe in something to be able to do it right. And it's very, very hard with so many technologies out there, particularly when I'm talking around social media, for myself, if it's LinkedIn or Facebook advertising, a bit Instagram and stuff, I can come up with strategic ideas and I believe in those things. I use those things. If it comes to TikTok, we try and stop the kids using it. I can't use it myself, can't I? But we've got people in place that are able to that, and I can then support them, and my colleagues can support them in terms of how we create a commercial benefit for our clients. Yeah,
and it's using it for a reason rather than just because you can.
Yeah,
which is the key thing, isn't it? I'd like to open up to any questions. Has anyone got any sort of burning questions for Andy that you would like to put into the chat box? I'm sure, or give it. Yeah, Phil, go for it. Do you want to unmute yourself?
Couple of questions, Andy. From a digital media point of view, what do you think is minimum budget you need to really sort of prod it and poke it and test it to get to a point where you can go, right, okay, I think we know where we go. I think we know what works here and what doesn't work. Right, now turn the tap on, sort of thing.
Yeah, I think that you should always be aiming to get a cost or a conversion value of around about 20%. So you're spending 20% on customer acquisition. And to start with, you should be able to say, if I do this and I get this return, it's going to cost me 20% to do that. And then the goal should be to drive that down to sort of 10, 12%. So I guess that's the only real way that you can look at it, because it will be different to most businesses. But I guess the question is what's the margin in the product? You know, if you're buying something in and reselling it, it's obviously it's quite tight, and you've got to get really clear with those numbers. If you're selling some sort of value add, or you're selling your time, if it's maybe with what you do in terms of some coaching or consultancy or something like that, then I guess you could probably sacrifice a little bit more of the margin. But you've just got to very, very quickly understand what good would look like, and you know, what is the value of the product, and by doing the research, how much would it cost me to get 100? You know, if it costs me £1 a click, and I'm going to get, you know, 100 clicks for £100, what do I need to convert to get my money back, sort of thing? You know, is it 1 in 100? Is it 10 in 100? What is the conversion rate? And it's just maths, I think. But by starting with something like the keyword planner, you're quite easily able to see typically what you should be, what it would typically cost you per click.
Right, and then you then, I assume you then go back to the client and go, right, we need you to spend at least £1,000 before we can really fine tune what we're doing, or 500 quid, or because. From my experience, I've seen a lot of people say, I've tried it for 50 quid and it doesn't work. And you know full well, yeah, we might blow 500 quid or £1,000 and actually not see anything fantastic out the back of it. But from there on in, we've done the learning to be able to optimize it.
Yeah, I mean, I think spending too little is as bad as spending too much, although it doesn't cost you too much. In terms of the data, you know, if you don't invest a reasonable amount of money, then you're not going to get enough information in to know whether it would have ultimately worked for you. That's the thing around, you know, you can quickly decide, you know, I've spent the 50 quid, it's not going to work for me. So you sort of write that off as an idea. But I think, you know, it depends on, you know, the more expensive the product and the more traffic out there, the more it's typically going to cost you per click. You know, it's you know, the sort of bigger the pool, the more competitors there are in there, and the more competitors there are from an advertising perspective, it'll drive up your average sort of cost per click for those particular keywords. But one thing that I think is not done enough, and has got much more sophisticated over the years, is retargeting. So that's sending an advert back to somebody that's already visited you, or somebody that's already visited you. You know, there's so much choice out there anyway. And, you know, there's some stats I saw a while ago, you know, 90% of people don't buy on the first visit. So a lot of people are doing the research. If you can then follow them around with an advert, or show them your advertising in a different channel, but in a sophisticated way, so you don't just carpet bomb them with it. You know, you set timing in there. You can be there at the time they're ready to make a decision, and that if they came to you via a retargeted method, your cost per click will be a lot lower. So for those 2 clicks, your average cost per click will be lower than if they'd visited you via the same channel twice. So there's stuff like that I think is a really good way, and it's all data led. You know, if you get the data right and you understand what good's going to look like, the numbers will be available if you know where to find them, or you're holding an agency to account to find them.
Just what? Sorry to hog.
No, go for it, Phil. It's fine.
Just as a follow up, I'd like to hear your thoughts on the coexistence of pay-per-click and SEO. So, for example, running ads on your own brand, and how that affects SEO, and actually SEOing the same words you're PPCing on, and whether the two have a cumulative joint benefit, or is that not the case anymore? Or, I mean, what have you seen on that side of things?
I think a business should be bidding on their own brand terms, as long as it's not too generic. I think that if you know, somebody is looking for you as a business, and they see that you've got the subliminal benefit to occupying 2 places, two elements of the real estate in the first page of Google. That's why it's really, really important to get all of your social profiles up to date and be using them and interacting with them, because you can occupy more of that real estate. So the advert is just another area of that real estate, but it is right at the top, and it will cost you very little because it's your brand. And you can also stop other businesses from bidding on your brand. There's you know, there's no, in my experience, any relationship to search engine performance being better or worse, depending on whether you're advertising or not. I think that would represent a real clear sort of conflict of interest from Google's perspective. But you know, I think so. That's brand stuff. Non-brand stuff, generic. You know, you want your website to be ranking well for your generic terms, because it's not going to cost you on a per-click basis, but it's going to take you time and investment in your time, in potentially an agency's time, to deliver that. Whereas bidding on keywords from an advertising perspective won't take very long, but it's going to cost you money every time somebody clicks on it. So you've then got to convert when they get to your site. Does that answer?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we did find that there were inherent benefits, maybe as a secondary of bidding on brand terms and your SEO, because maybe they see your ad, but they click on your SEO, and therefore Google sees lots of clicks, so it keeps you high. You know, not for me to point fingers at Google, but Google saying, if you advertise with us, your SEO might be a bit better. I don't know whether they think that and whether the algorithm does that. It's not for me to say.
I think that's a conspiracy theory. But no, I know, I agree with you. And I think, you know, no more than 20% of people click on an advert. But the fact that somebody's seen your advert, scroll down, they're more likely to click on you if you're in second or third place, because you're subliminally a little bit more familiar, I think, in that example.
Yeah.
Thanks for your question, Phil. I was just going on the website side of things. Now, clearly, you know, do nowadays, is it good to keep your web? Obviously, we should be all keeping that into our content and keeping it fresh. But when it comes to that, changing the design of it, things like that, are the benefits in rehashing every so often? You know, that kind of approach.
I mean, I always recommend sort of continuous improvement these days. So if you've got a good website structure and the back end is being maintained, a lot of small business owners have WordPress websites.
Yeah.
Those websites have to be maintained on a monthly basis, because at some point they're going to get hacked. The vulnerabilities are exposed every single month with WordPress and their plugins. So they have to be maintained. And I think, you know, changing your website structure for the sake of it, I mean, you know, website development is the core of what we do. But the bottom line is it's just a vehicle for carrying your content, allowing you to talk about what you do and convert somebody. So if you've got the formula right, making cosmetic changes around banner designs and stuff, yeah, absolutely, you should be doing that. But making wholesale front end changes, and if it's not working for you, you know, if it's not working for you, then don't do it. But there's some really cool tools out there, like you know, Hotjar, if anybody's heard of that.
Yeah.
Full Story, where you're able to use heat tracking to see users are doing on your website, whether that's you know, whatever device somebody's on, and you can get video recordings. It's all GDPR compliant, so any information's sort of anonymized, and you know, you can use data to figure out whether something needs to change or not. And I think that applies to everything. Sometimes, you know, like you say, from a business owner's perspective, you can think something is what you want to do, but don't do it unless there's a good business reason to do it. We do a load of work with conversion rate optimization. So it's called, as well as CRO. What we do with that is split test web pages and changes. So we've got a client that's generating, they were generating over £100,000 a month through an e-commerce website. And they thought, we don't like the fact that we've got rounded corners everywhere. We think that it doesn't look like our competitors who have got very square edges and they look, you know, really professional. And our argument was, why do you want to look like everybody else? It is working. You grow every month. So let's do a test on it. So we set up a CRO test using some software called Google Optimize. And what that enables you to do is to serve up 50% of, so you've got two versions, an A and B split test, serve up to 50% to the page to 50% each. And then that gives you data over like a 6 to 8 week period, depending on how much you need traffic to make a conclusive test. So depending on how much traffic you get, depends on how long the test takes. But, you know, that proved that the rounded corners was converting something like 20% more than the square corners. Right. So we didn't have to do the development work. We set it all up within this test. There's a small amount of work to do it, but not, you know, probably a week's worth of work. And then but the added benefit was they didn't lose all those sales. You know, they would have been 20% down. So, you know, using the website to evolve it by doing tests and looking at what you think might make a difference is definitely the way that we recommend. And, you know, some of this stuff isn't necessarily affordable to the small business, but using Hotjar is, you know, it's a little piece of code that sits on the site that gives you some free data. Just have a look and see what your users are doing.
Yeah. So just, I'm conscious of time, so just trying to kind of sum up really. So has anyone got any further questions you'd like to ask Andy? Oh, Mr. Wilson's put a comment on here, even though he's not showing us on his video. He uses Hotjar. Interesting to see how people go from page to page on your website.
Yeah, it's absolutely fascinating. You can figure out problems, but you can also see where people are not doing the things you wanted them to do. You know, it can you know, suggest you put calls to action in places, and you know, all sorts of stuff. And you know, it's easy to use, and like I say, it's completely anonymous as well. So you're not spying on anybody. But you're just gathering genuine market research data to make future decisions.
Yeah, and again, if you don't know about it, you don't know about it.
No.
That's the key thing, isn't it? Around a lot of these kind of things. Has anyone else got any other questions they want to ask Andy at all? Or pop them in the chat or unmute themselves and give me a shout? Clearly not, Andy. We must have silenced everyone. Everyone's all webbed out.
I think I'm connected with everybody on LinkedIn or whatever. If there's anything, just ping me a.
I was going to say, if Andy, you know, if anyone's got any questions, either ping him direct to Andy if you link with him on LinkedIn. He's a fount of all knowledge. And I think, you know, as we've talked about, it's all around kind of having it with a plan. And I'm going to do a shameless plug here for a simple thing that if people do get stuck, then we helped, you know, develop an online plan that you can, for your marketing, to help you build it. I'll put the links in it, and it'll be following up on the email that comes through. But it is about, I think for us, it's about taking that step back and having a plan with what you want to do, but then engaging with the right people and the experts, so that actually you can figure out all these little things that people need to help with as much as anything else. So just to sum up, Andy, what do you think is then? It's about having a plan, understanding your options.
Yeah, I mean, having a plan, and don't be afraid to change the plan. Try and gather as much data as you possibly can about what's going on, and you know, don't just think that just because somebody else is doing it, it's working. It might be that they didn't have a plan, they're burning money, and it isn't working. Yeah. I think that's important, and I think, you know, if you don't have the time to do some of the stuff I've talked about and other things yourself, at least read up so that you can hold to account, so that you're not paying for something that really shouldn't be.
Yeah. And I think there is a great point that you said earlier about, you know, having to be able to do it yourself. I think what we try and do when we're helping people with their marketing is you start off where you're doing a lot of it for them, but over time, you know, their reliance on you is dropping a little bit, so they can start to empower themselves, so they can learn as well, and then just come to you as and when they need them. Yeah,
I mean, the more empowered a business is, the more they're going to be doing the things quickly. When, as a really from your side, Mike, and our side, it's around content, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
You know, and if they're more involved and more empowered, they realise the importance of getting this stuff done and getting it out there. And as you know, like with when you get a paid campaign running efficiently, we'll turn around to a client and say, right, we'll just keep an eye on it, but you know, let's spend an hour showing you what's in there. But let's keep the budget, but let's spend it somewhere else and build up that dominance.
You almost want to get the reliance down, so actually you can then go in with the strategic decisions while they're doing the do, don't you?
Yeah,
that's effectively what we want to do. Brilliant. Conscious of time, but Andy, thank you so much for spending the time with us. It's been really fascinating. You will get an email, guys, that comes out tomorrow, which will have the video attached to it, so you can have a look at it again. And there'll be some links and things on there as well. But thank you so much for everyone for taking the time out for joining us. Our next webinar will more than likely be January. We're giving everyone a break over December because I'm sure they've got other things to do. Thanks, Phil, for your comment. Thanks, everyone. It doesn't matter, Rosemary, you weren't on the video. It's fine. I'm sure you'll be presentable. Don't worry about it. But that's great. No, I really appreciate everyone's time. Thank you so much. And we'll catch up with you all very, very soon. Thanks, Andy.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. Cheers. Thank you all.